The signal. Outpost Epsilon hung like a delicate crystal ornament against the backdrop of the violet nebula, its spindly arms rotating slowly to generate artificial gravity. The research station occupied the most precarious of positions, both physically and politically. At the very edge of concordance space, officially, it served as a joint scientific endeavor between 17 species of the galactic concordance. Unofficially, it was the furthest human presence from Earth, a toe dipped carefully into the waters of galactic politics. Dr. Nadia Chen stared at her research terminal, the holographic display bathing her face in a soft blue glow. The station had been tracking unusual energy signatures from beyond the nebula for weeks now. Something was moving out there, and whatever it was, it didn't match any known propulsion system in the concordance database. Dr. Chen, the smooth voice of her Valaxian colleague, interrupted her concentration. The anomalies are increasing in frequency. 17 new signatures detected in the last hour alone. Nadia pushed a strand of black hair behind her ear, her dark eyes narrowing as she studied the data. Pattern recognition suggests coordinated movement, Relta, not random drift. The Valaxian scientist's translucent skin pulsed with concerned yellow light. I shared this with Station Commander Orvis. He suggests we alert the concordance monitoring buoy. That would be advisable, Nadia agreed, though she knew what would happen. The concordance would debate, form committees, and eventually send an observation vessel. In about 3 months. The station's alert system chose that moment to activate, bathing the research lab in pulsing red light. Unidentified vessels approaching, announced the station's eye. Multiple contacts detected. All personnel to emergency stations. Nadia exchanged alarmed glances with Relta. That's not possible, she said. They can't have covered that distance so quickly. The station rocked suddenly, throwing Nadia against her console. The sound of metal tearing echoed through the habitat ring. Hull breach detected in sections 4 through 7. The AI reported with mechanical calm. Station integrity compromised. Emergency lockdown initiated. Nadia pulled herself to her feet, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. Relta, get to the evacuation pods. I need to secure the research data. The Valaxian skin had turned a sickly white. What's attacking us? I don't know, Nadia admitted, but whatever it is, the concordance needs our data. As Relta departed, Nadia's fingers flew across her terminal, initiating the emergency data protocols. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the viewport, she caught her first glimpse of their attackers. Sleek, chitinous vessels that moved with insectoid precision, their hulls a mottled green-black that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. The swarmers, the bougie men of the eastern spiral arm. Most species considered them a myth or an exaggeration, but humanity had always suspected otherwise. Station integrity at 37%, the AI informed her. Catastrophic failure imminent. Nadia finished the data transfer and slammed her palm against the emergency communicator. She bypassed the standard concordance channels, instead activating a quantum transmitter hidden within her research equipment. Technology far beyond what humanity was supposed to possess. This is Dr. Nadia Chen, Outpost Epsilon. She spoke clearly despite her racing heart. Code Firestarter. I repeat, Code Firestarter. Swarmer attack in progress. Station failing. Transmitting coordinates and data now. She pressed her trembling thumb against the biometric scanner, authorizing the transmission. The quantum pulse would reach Earth instantaneously, carrying both her warning and all the station's data on the swarmers. The lab door burst open. Commander Orvis, a stocky Tyrellian with mottled gray skin, stumbled in. His uniform was torn and stained with the pale blue of Tyrellian blood. Chen, evacuation pods are launching. We need to move now. Nadia nodded, snatching a small data crystal from her console and tucking it into her pocket. Insurance. How many ships? She asked as they hurried down the corridor, stepping over debris and sparking cables. 17 that we can count, Orvis replied grimly, "Like nothing I've ever seen. They cut through our shields like they weren't even there." They reached the evacuation bay just as another impact rocked the station. Only 3 pods remained. The others, Nadia asked, fearing the answer. Launched. Whether they'll make it. Orvis didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They quickly loaded the remaining station personnel, a Parthian engineer, 2 human technicians, and Relta, into the pods. Orvis took the controls of the last one, with Nadia beside him. "Launch sequence initiated," he announced, his 4-fingered hands dancing across the controls. Through the viewport, Nadia watched the nightmare unfold. The swarmer vessels surrounded the dying station, methodically cutting it apart. Several were now pursuing the fleeing evacuation pods. She saw one pod flash briefly as a swarmer beam sliced through it. Their own pod shuddered as it launched, accelerating away from the doomed station. Nadia closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer, not for herself, but that her message had reached Earth. The grand spire of Concord Prime towered over the Concordance capital city, its crystalline surface refracting the light of twin suns into prismatic patterns across the surrounding structures. Within its uppermost chamber, the Concordance Security Council convened an emergency session. High Counselor Vereen, an ancient Athabascan whose age had turned her scaled skin nearly translucent, regarded the holographic display with grave concern. "Outpost Epsilon has gone silent," she announced to the assembled representatives. "Our monitoring boys detected weapons fire, and then nothing. 17 evacuation pods were launched. Only 2 have been recovered." "The swarmers?" asked Representative Kosk of the Parthian Union, his mechanical eyes whirring as they adjusted focus. "The survivor's testimony confirms it." Vereen nodded. "After centuries of silence, they have returned." Murmurs of alarm spread through the chamber. "Were there any human survivors?" inquired Representative Ton of the Solarian League. The smooth-skinned humanoid's voice carried an undertone of concern that few at the table shared. "No," Vereen replied. "It appears all human personnel were lost. The research director, Dr. Chen, was last seen boarding an evacuation pod that failed to clear the engagement zone." Ton's expression fell. Earth must be notified. They had 23 citizens aboard that station. "A diplomatic communique has been prepared," Vereen assured him, though her tone suggested it was a mere formality. "However, our immediate concern must be the swarmer incursion, if they have returned in force." "What about the research?" interrupted Representative Kteris of the Velian technocracy. "Outpost Epsilon was monitoring anomalous energy signatures. Did any of that data survive?" "Unfortunately not," Vereen said. "All research was lost with the station." "We must mobilize the Concordance Defense Fleet," Kosk declared, pounding his mechanical fist on the table. "If the swarmers are moving into Concordance space, every member world is at risk." "The fleet is already on alert," Vereen assured him. "Vessels are being dispatched to secure the perimeter." "And what of Earth?" Ton pressed. "Their colony on Proxima Centauri lies relatively close to the incursion point." A dismissive wave from Kosk. "The humans barely have interstellar capability. Their handful of colony ships and trading vessels are no match for the swarmers. Perhaps the Concordance could offer evacuation assistance." "That won't be necessary," a new voice interjected. All eyes turned to the human representative, Jonathan Graves. Until now, he had remained silent, observing the proceedings with an unreadable expression. "Earth appreciates the Concordance's concern," Graves continued, his voice steady, "but we will see to the protection of our own interests." Kosk made a sound that approximated a laugh. "With all due respect, Representative Graves, we've seen your military vessels. They're primitive by Concordance standards, let alone against a threat like the swarmers." Graves smiled thinly. "Perhaps what you've seen is not all there is to see." Before anyone could respond, an aide rushed to Vereen's side, whispering urgently in her ear. The High Counselor's expression shifted from annoyance to shock. "We're receiving reports," she announced. her voice strained, of multiple unknown vessels appearing near the remains of Outpost Epsilon. They're engaging the swarmer fleet. The holographic display shifted to show a real-time feed from a Concordance monitoring probe. The council members fell silent as they watched sleek, midnight black vessels moving with impossible precision through the swarmer formation. Weapons unlike anything they recognized lashed out, cutting through the chitinous hulls of the swarmer ships. "What are we seeing?" Kosk demanded. "Who are these newcomers?" According to their transponder codes, Vereen answered slowly, her eyes fixed on the display. "They're claiming to be the Earth Defense Fleet." All eyes turned to Graves, who merely folded his hands on the table, his expression serene. "As I said," he remarked quietly, "what you've seen is not all there is to see." Admiral Hassan stood on the bridge of the EDF Lionheart, watching the battle unfold on the tactical display. The swarmer vessels moved with the coordinated grace of insects defending a hive, but they were clearly unprepared for what they were facing. "Target Alpha destroyed," reported his tactical officer. "Targets Bravo and Charlie breaking formation." Hassan nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the holographic display. At 58, he was one of the oldest active commanders in the Earth Defense Fleet, a veteran of its secret formation and the decades of preparation that had followed. "Maintain engagement protocol," he ordered. "Focus fire on any vessel attempting to escape the cordon." "Admiral," his communications officer called, "we're receiving a Concordance priority signal. They're demanding identification and clarification of our presence in Concordance space." A thin smile crossed Hassan's face. "Acknowledge receipt. Inform them we are conducting rescue operations following the attack on Outpost Epsilon, as is our right under Article 7 of the Concordance Charter regarding member states' autonomous defense actions." "I'm also getting signals from the evacuation pods, sir," the officer added. "2 confirmed human survivors." Hassan's attention sharpened. Status and identity. 1 technician with minor injuries, and the officer paused, surprise evident in his voice. "Dr. Nadia Chen, sir. She's alive." For the first time since the engagement began, genuine emotion cracked Hassan's professional facade. Relief washed over his features. "Have the Artemis recover those pods immediately," he ordered. Priority 1. As the Lionheart banked smoothly to intercept another group of swarmer vessels, Hassan allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had maintained the charade for over 70 years, presenting themselves to the galactic community as newcomers, their technology limited, their military capabilities modest, all while secretly building the most advanced fleet in known space, hidden in plain sight. And now, the deception was ending. The silent fleet would be silent no more. "Swarmer fleet at 30% strength and falling," reported Tactical. "They're attempting to regroup for a coordinated withdrawal." "Don't let them," Hassan commanded. "None can be allowed to escape. The galaxy thinks the swarmers are invincible. Today we prove otherwise." As the Earth vessels closed in for the kill, Hassan knew that across the galaxy, the balance of power had just irrevocably shifted. By tomorrow, every species in the Concordance would know that humanity was not what they had pretended to be. And they would be terrified. The response. The medbay of the EDF Artemis hummed with quiet efficiency as Dr. Nadia Chen sat on the examination table, watching the medical officer scan her injuries. She couldn't take her eyes off the insignia on the officer's uniform. An eagle with outspread wings clutching lightning bolts, surrounded by 7 stars. An emblem she'd never seen on any publicly known Earth vessel. Mild concussion, 2 cracked ribs, various contusions, the officer reported, reading from her scanner. Nothing our regenerators can't fix in a few hours. Nadia barely heard her. "These ships," she said. "How long has Earth had these ships?" The medical officer gave her a sympathetic smile. "That's a question for the Admiral, Doctor. I'm just here to patch you up." The medbay door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a tall figure in a midnight blue uniform adorned with silver rank insignia. Captain Marcus Chen. her brother. "Hello, Nadia," he said, his familiar voice a stark contrast to the unfamiliar surroundings. She stared at him, speechless for several seconds. 3 years, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 years of messages about your deep space exploration vessel. The outdated engines, the limited defensive capabilities. All necessary, Marcus replied, stepping into the room. You know how the Concordance monitors communications. Your own sister, she said, anger finally breaking through her shock. You've been commanding. This, she gestured around her, while feeding me stories about limping around the edges of our system in what amounts to a space tugboat. Marcus dismissed the medical officer with a nod before responding. Need to know basis, Nadia. Until today, you didn't need to know. I'm the research director for humanity's most advanced outpost in Concordance space. Exactly, Marcus said, his expression softening. You were our eyes and ears where we couldn't be. The work you've done, the position you've built, it's been invaluable. Nadia's anger deflated slightly. The swarmers. You knew they were out there. We suspected, Marcus corrected. Your data confirmed it. When your quantum signal came through. He paused, emotion briefly crossing his face. We moved immediately. A thought struck her. Quantum signal. The Concordance believes quantum communication is theoretical. They monitor all standard communications channels, but they don't even scan for quantum entanglement. One of many things they've underestimated about us, Marcus said with a slight smile. Admiral Hassan would like to debrief you as soon as you're cleared by medical. Your data on the swarmers is the most comprehensive we've ever had. Nadia nodded slowly, still processing the implications. How many ships does Earth really have? Marcus's smile widened. That, dear sister, is going to be quite the revelation. The Concordance Security Council chamber had descended into chaos. Representatives from 17 species shouted over one another, demanding explanations, expressing outrage, or calling for immediate action. High Counselor Vereen repeatedly struck her ceremonial staff against the floor, the crystalline rod emitting a resonant tone with each impact. Order, she commanded. The Council will have order. Gradually, the tumult subsided, though tension remained palpable in the air. Representative Graves, Vereen said, fixing the human with a penetrating stare. Your government owes this council an explanation. The vessels that engaged the swarmer fleet possess technology far beyond what Earth has claimed capability for. This deception violates multiple Concordance transparency protocols. Jonathan Graves rose from his seat, straightening his immaculate gray suit. His calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the agitation around him. High Counselor, esteemed representatives, he began, his voice measured. Earth acknowledges that certain aspects of our technological development have been selectively disclosed. Selectively disclosed, sputtered Representative Kosk. Your vessels utilize gravitic manipulation technology, phased array energy weapons, and what appears to be some form of spatial distortion for rapid deployment. All technologies your government has repeatedly claimed to be beyond your theoretical understanding, let alone practical application. Graves nodded, unperturbed by the accusation. Recent events have necessitated a revision of our disclosure policies. This goes beyond disclosure policies. Vereen interjected. This speaks to a deliberate campaign of misinformation. For what purpose would Earth portray itself as technologically inferior? Self-preservation, Graves answered simply. When humanity first detected signals from beyond our solar system, we also intercepted enough transmissions to understand the nature of galactic politics. We observed how the Concordance and other powers treated emerging species, particularly those with valuable resources or strategic positions. He touched a control on his wrist device, and a holographic display appeared above the council table. It showed a map of known space, with thousands of small points of light scattered throughout. These, Graves continued, are Earth observation posts, unmanned, stealthed, and equipped with quantum communication arrays. For 70 years, we have been watching, learning, preparing. Stunned silence greeted this revelation. "You've been spying on the entire galaxy," Representative Xeris said finally, her mechanical eyes whirring as they recalibrated. "We prefer the term passive information gathering," Graves replied with the ghost of a smile. "And before accusations of treaty violations begin, I would remind the Council that Earth signed the Limited Information Sharing Protocol, not the Full Disclosure Accord. The distinction is legally significant." Legal technicalities aside, Vereen cut in. "The fact remains that Earth has revealed itself to possess military technology that rivals or exceeds that of the senior Concordance members. This fundamentally alters the balance of power, which is precisely why we kept it hidden," Graves acknowledged, "until it was needed." "And now," asked Representative Ton, "what are Earth's intentions now that this capability is revealed?" Graves's expression turned serious. "The swarmer threat is real and immediate. Intelligence suggests this was merely the advance force of a much larger invasion. Earth is prepared to take a leading role in the defense of not just our interests, but those of all species threatened by the swarmers." "How convenient," sneered Kosk. "You reveal your secret fleet just in time to position yourselves as saviors. Would you prefer we had waited until Outpost Epsilon was destroyed and the swarmers had advanced to more populated systems?" Graves countered. "The loss of life would have been incalculable." Before Kosk could retort, the chamber doors opened to admit an aide who hurried to Vereen's side. After listening to a whispered message, the High Counselor's expression grew grave. "We are receiving reports," she announced, "of swarmer vessels massing beyond the Cygnus Rift. Preliminary estimates suggest a fleet numbering in the hundreds." Murmurs of alarm spread through the chamber. "The Concordance Defense Fleet is mobilizing," Vereen continued, "but at current deployment speeds, they cannot establish a defensive position for at least 7 standard cycles. Earth can have a battle group in position within 26 hours, Graves offered, and a full fleet detachment within 3 days. The representatives exchanged glances, the implications clear. Accept Earth's help and acknowledge their new status, or wait for the Concordance's slower response and risk catastrophic losses. This council will need to confer, Vereen said finally. Representative Graves, please remain available for consultation. As the human representative departed, Vereen surveyed the troubled faces around her. The galaxy had changed irrevocably in a single day. Admiral Hassan stood on the observation deck of EDF Lionheart, gazing out at the vast deployment of Earth vessels, now visible in normal space. Over 200 ships, from nimble frigates to massive dreadnoughts, arranged in perfect formation as they prepared to meet the swarmer threat. For decades, these ships had remained hidden, training in the dark spaces between stars, conducting exercises in uninhabited systems, maintaining a constant state of readiness for a day they hoped would never come. Quite a sight, isn't it? Came a voice from behind him. Hassan turned to find Dr. Nadia Chen approaching, now dressed in the dark blue uniform of Earth Fleet Intelligence, the silver oak leaf of a commander on her collar. Her rapid field promotion reflected the urgent need for her expertise on swarmer behavior and capabilities. Indeed it is, Commander, Hassan replied. The first time the entire First Fleet has been deployed in open space. History in the making. Nadia stopped beside him, gazing out at the Armada. I still can't believe all this was hidden from the Concordance. From me. Compartmentalization was essential, Hassan said. Even most of Earth's population remains unaware of the full extent of the fleet. And now, she asked, now that the secret's out. Hassan's expression hardened slightly. Now we do what we built this fleet to do. We protect humanity, and by extension, any species willing to stand with us. A chime sounded, and Hassan's wrist communicator activated. Admiral, Concordance representatives are requesting permission to come aboard. Granted, Hassan replied. Have them escorted to the diplomatic suite. He turned back to Nadia. It seems the galaxy's political order is about to undergo significant restructuring. Your brother is leading the diplomatic team from Earth. Between his political acumen and your scientific expertise, humanity's position should be well represented. Nadia nodded thoughtfully. The Concordants won't easily accept this new reality. Their entire system is built on carefully balanced power dynamics between the founding species. They'll adapt, Hassan said simply. They have no choice. A junior officer approached, saluting crisply. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting the leading edge of the swarmer fleet. Estimated time to engagement, 14 hours. Very good, Lieutenant. Begin final battle preparations. All ships to combat readiness within the hour. As the officer departed, Hassan turned back to the viewport. You should join your brother in the diplomatic suite, Commander. Your insights will be valuable. Nadia hesitated. Before I go, Admiral, why now? If Earth has had this capability for decades, why reveal it now? Hassan's gaze remained fixed on the fleet arrayed before them. Because some threats transcend political considerations. The swarmers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume and expand. If they had been allowed to establish a foothold in this sector, he shook his head grimly. So this is altruism. Nadia pressed, skepticism evident in her tone. A slight smile touched Hassan's lips. Let's call it enlightened self-interest. Earth needs a stable galaxy to thrive in. Nadia considered this, then nodded. Fair enough. But once the swarmers are dealt with, the political fallout will be significant. Some species will see us as saviors, others as deceivers. That, Hassan said, is why we have diplomats like your brother. He turned to face her fully. Make no mistake, Commander. Today marks the end of humanity's charade as a junior species finding its way in the galaxy. By this time tomorrow, every civilization in the Concordance will know that Earth is a power to be reckoned with and feared. Nadia asked quietly. Hassan's expression softened slightly. Respected would be my preference, but if fear is what keeps the peace until respect can grow, so be it. As Nadia departed for the diplomatic suite, Hassan returned his attention to the vast fleet under his command. 70 years of preparation, of sacrifice and secrecy, had led to this moment. The silent fleet would finally fulfill its purpose, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Concordance diplomatic delegation stood in stunned silence as they toured the command center of the Lionheart. Representatives from 5 senior member species had been permitted aboard, an unprecedented look at technology that had been hidden from them for decades. The neural interface systems alone are at least a century beyond what we believed humans capable of, murmured the Velian representative, her cybernetic eyes scanning every detail. Marcus Chen, serving as their guide, maintained a pleasant but reserved demeanor. Earth has always placed a high value on the integration of technology with human capability. Our neural systems are designed to maximize the natural intuition of our officers while providing instantaneous access to ship systems. And these phase shields? Inquired the Athabascan representative. Our sensors registered them absorbing energy from swarmer weapons rather than merely deflecting it. A more efficient approach to defense, Marcus replied with practiced ease. Why waste energy when you can repurpose it? The delegation moved through the ship with a mixture of awe and unease. Each revelation of Earth's true capabilities reinforced the uncomfortable reality. They had severely underestimated humanity. As they entered the Strategic Command Center, they found Admiral Hassan and Commander Nadia Chen reviewing holographic projections of the approaching swarmer fleet. Representatives. Hassan greeted them with a formal nod. I trust your tour has been informative. Informative hardly begins to describe it, Admiral, replied the Parthian representative, his mechanical arms gesturing expressively. We have many questions about Earth's deception, which will be addressed through proper diplomatic channels, Hassan replied smoothly. For now, however, I believe we share a more immediate concern. He gestured to the holographic display, where the massive swarmer fleet moved inexorably toward concordant space. Hundreds of vessels, arranged in a formation reminiscent of an insect swarm. Our intelligence suggests their target is the Cygnus Rift colonies. Nadia explained. 7 worlds, population approximately 12 billion. The Concordance defense fleet cannot reach them in time. But you can, stated the Athabascan representative. It wasn't a question. We can, Hassan confirmed. And we will. With or without Concordance approval. The representatives exchanged glances. The Council has authorized conditional cooperation, the Parthian announced reluctantly. Earth vessels may engage the swarmer threat, with Concordance observers present. Hassan nodded, as if he had expected nothing less. Commander Chen will serve as your liaison. All tactical information will be shared in real time. And after? Asked the Velian representative. When the immediate threat is addressed, what then? Earth has revealed itself to be a major power overnight. The political and economic implications are significant. A subtle smile crossed Hassan's face. I suggest we focus on surviving the next 24 hours. After that, I'm certain our respective governments can reach an accommodation that serves everyone's interests. As the diplomatic party departed with Nadia, Marcus lingered behind. They're terrified, he observed quietly to Hassan. Not just of the swarmers, but of us. Good, Hassan replied. Fear can be a powerful motivator for peace. For 70 years, we've watched species like the Athabascans and Parthians dominate the Concordance, dictating terms to lesser races. Perhaps it's time for a new perspective. Marcus studied the older man's face. Is that why you joined the Silent Fleet, Admiral? To remake the Galactic Order? Hassan's expression softened slightly. I joined to protect Earth, Commander. Everything else is collateral benefit. The ship's AI announced the 10-hour mark until swarmer contact. Throughout the vast Earth fleet, final preparations were underway. Weapons systems charged, shield generators synchronized, neural interfaces calibrated. Humanity had hidden in the shadows for generations, watching and learning as the galaxy's powers played their games of politics and dominance. Now, those shadows were receding, revealing a force that none had anticipated. The distress signal from Outpost Epsilon had done more than summon help. It had triggered the emergence of humanity's true face, a face that would forever change the balance of power among the stars. And as the Earth Defense Fleet moved into position to meet the swarmer threat, one thing became abundantly clear to the watching galaxy. Humanity had never been the primitive newcomers they'd pretended to be. They had been the predator hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their true nature. The silent watchers would be silent no more.